Hello everyone, welcome to the itvideos.com. I'm your host Aftab Sayed, and in this video we are going to learn how we can implement and secure our web API in .NET Core using JWT Token, the most popular JSON web tokens, also known as JWT, and we are going to see how we can do that. I'm in my Visual Studio 2019, so I'm going to go to the help menu, about, and I'm using the community version, Visual Studio 2019. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a very simple new solution, or a new project rather, and I'm going to say ASP.NET Core Web Application. I'm going to say ASP.NET Core Web Application and choose next. I'm using C# application, and I'm going to say Web API demo. I'm going to hit create. So it's going to display a dialog box with all the templates, and here we are going to select API. We have other templates as well, web applications, MVC, and we also have an empty one. So to start with, I'm going to select API. It gives us the boilerplate code, and I'm going to choose ASP.NET Core 3.1, which is the latest one, and the framework we're going to choose the .NET Core. So with that thing selected, I'm going to click on the create button, leaving everything as is. It's going to go ahead and create a web project for me, web API project for me. It's going to take a little while setting up the project and the initial stuff. And if I go over to my solution explorer, that is our solution right there. And as you can see, it has the startup file, the program file, and it has given us a test out of the box controller, which is just called the weather forecast controller. Right, and if I leave everything as is and just change a couple of things, and if I leave everything as is and click on the start button, it's going to go ahead and launch this in my Chrome browser, which is set as the default. And if I resize this so that you can see what's happening behind the scene, and it is displaying us all this information. That is looking good. Our web API is working. So let me just go ahead and as we have seen, the out of the box we get just one controller. It's called weather forecast controller, and when we see the values in our browser, we get this JSON. What I can also do is just grab the URL, and if I open up my Postman and just chuck this URL in there, and while my project is running, if I just hit send, we'll get all that information in a nicely formatted. I haven't, as you can see, I haven't specified any authorization right now. It doesn't have any authorization added to it, and just the the default header. We haven't specified any custom header for us. It's just a simple get, and we get all this information. So what we would like to do is somehow secure this endpoint so that you can only access this endpoint if you had the right JWT token. So let's see how we can implement that. The first thing, or the easiest way to authorize, the easiest way to secure any endpoint is by using one statement on the top of your endpoint, and that is, if I stop this one, so let's say this is the endpoint we are calling, right? And that is just by adding the authorize keyword, and of course authorize is not recognized because we need to import the proper namespace. So we add that, hit save, and if I hit the run button again, let's see if we get the information back or not. So it's going to go ahead and process the information for us and try to retrieve the data. Looks like it did not work because it says no authentication scheme provided, or if it is not very clear, I can copy the URL, go back to my Postman. Actually, this is my previous request which had the data with 200. Okay, now if I hit the send on the same endpoint, let's see what we get. As you can see, we are getting some sort of an error, but we are not able to get to the resource. It is saying is that we have specified the authorized keyword, but we haven't specified any authentication mechanism or authentication scheme rather. So we have specified this one, but we haven't told our web API how we would like to set up the authentication scheme on this application. Let's see how we can implement that. First things first, let's add a couple of NuGet packages. You got that right, it is the JWT packages. So let me right click, manage NuGet package. It opens up this dialog box, and here I'm going to search for, I'm going to say JWT, and if I dismiss this Solution Explorer so that we can see more. So we're going to download this bit, and this has got 91.4 millions at the time of this recording. I mean, this is really popular. So let me go ahead and click on the install button. It's gonna go ahead and do all the installation of the necessary files. I'm gonna pause the video so that you don't have to wait for it to do the installation. Alright, we get this prompt to accept the license. Of course, as we all do, we just simply accept the license. Well, make sure to read if you would like to. I'm going to click on accept, and it's going to install the necessary files, and looks like this bit is now installed. We would need another package. It's called JWT Bearer, which is actually, it was right there, which is this one. It has got about 37.7 million downloads. This is also a required package when we would like to do our authentication. And as you can see the description, it is ASP.NET Core middleware that enables an application to receive OpenID Connect Bearer token. So this is also required as part of our authentication process. Let me go ahead and click on install, accept, and this is also installed. So let's verify if it was installed. Let's verify the package, and as you can see, under the dependencies I've got these two files added, JWT Bearer and the token. Okay, so with those packages installed and out of the way, let me proceed to a very important file which is like the heart of this .NET Core solution, and that is called the startup file. Alright, so as you can see, we do not have any authentication added. Well, we have the authorization, but we do not have any authentication process. We do not have any JWT configured here in the configuration service. So let me go ahead and add the JWT configuration in the configured service section. So I'm going to just paste in the code that I have, and then I'll walk you through as to what it does, so that you don't have to watch me type that whole section. It will just save time. I'm going to hit Ctrl V because I have that code in my clipboard, and this is what we have right now. So what we are telling our .NET Core API is add this authentication. So we are saying in the services, add the authentication service, and we are setting up some properties in here. So that's one bit, and here we are telling our web API is to add an authentication. And what is the authentication scheme? That is the JWT authentication. Now every JWT authentication has to have an audience, an issuer, and a sign-in key. So what we are saying here is the sign-in key. Sign-in key is nothing but a secret that is used to verify the signature. Now let's configure this bit in here. So we'll configure this bit in a moment, and then we are saying, okay, validate the issuer. Issuer is who is issuing the JWT token. So we would like to add that flag as well. Validate the audience. Audience is the intended audience who this token is intended for. So here we have few things specified in here. The valid issuer here is this value. Now where did I get this value from? So if I go to the project properties, in the debug I've got this one, and the validate audience is also this one, because I'm going to be generating the token from this box, and the audience is also this box. Let me explain this to you, what the issuer and audience is. I've got this paint shop thingy in here. So if I were to, let's say, so we've got two entities in here, right? And here, let's say we have your server, let's say, right? And we have secured resource, right? And here we have, let's say, client, for example, and this would become the issuer, and this would become the audience. And when we do generate this one, so this generates the token, generates the JWT token using the same secret key. So the client or the issuer would issue generate or issue a JWT token using the same secret key that it is configured in here. I hope you know what I mean, but it may be a bit hard to understand. I'll show this to you in a video that will clear things up. Alright, so we talked about the sign-in key. Sign-in key is like a secured password or something. So we are getting some squigglies, so let's add some necessary namespaces. So it has added that, and this sign-in key, we haven't yet specified that. So let's configure that. We can do that right here. It can be a private member of the class. So I've got some code in my clipboard. Let me paste that in here. Alright, so this is your key. Let me add the necessary namespaces, and what this would do is this would generate a symmetric security key. Now symmetric security is beyond the scope of this video, but just in short, a symmetric key is a type of encryption scheme in which the same key is used both to encrypt and decrypt messages. Now line number 20, this one can be, well, it can be stored in a secured location. This value in here, this value in here, this can be stored in your web config file or a secured web config file. You can encrypt the values or in an app settings file somewhere, so that if you want to change, you can always come and change without having to modify your classes. So with the authentication bit here added, I'm going to save it, and let's run it, and let's see what we get. Alright, now we get 401 message. Let's copy this. Let me put this in my Postman, and now we get 401 rather than some 500 error saying that the authentication scheme is not specified. So now we get the proper 401 error, because what we are trying to do is we are trying to access a resource which was set as secured in the last video, and that resource is this one. So we are trying to access this resource, right? There's the name of the controller, there's the name of the controller, right? And we are getting the 401 authorized because we added that authorize attribute in here. So looks like we are looking good. Now there's one more thing that I would need to add in my starter class. So if I close this one, here in our configure, so we are saying use authorization, but so in addition to the authorization, we will also like to add use authentication, because authorization is telling what resources the users have access to, but authentication would tell me if you are who you claim to be, who you are. I'm going to say app.use authentication, just to keep things really safe and secure. Alright, this is now in place. Now all we would need to do is generate a JWT token, and in our get resource action we are going to add that JWT token, and we'll see if we can access the resource. Let me add a new folder. We'll just call that helper folder. And inside of this, okay, we're going to create a class that would generate the JWT token for us. If you're calling an application and you would like to see how we generate the JWT token, I'm going to right click, just add a helper class which will generate our JWT token for us. Let's call it JWT token. I've got a code in my clipboard. I'm going to paste that in here so that you don't have to watch me type that whole thing. It will only save time. So, and then I explain to you what this code does, and we'll add the necessary namespaces. So let me add the namespaces so that we don't get this quickly. So what are we trying to achieve here? What we are trying to do is we are trying to generate a token that can access this resource, which is a secured resource, right? And this API has got authentication in place with this security token. So when you're trying to access a resource which has the authentication in place and it is using a secret key, which is this, and when you generate a JWT token, your token should also match the same secret keys so that it would be like for like. Because I'm using the same solution to generate the JWT token and then access the resource, and here I've got one static method. So because I've got the static method, I would also like to set this class as the static. Let me save it. Okay, so what we are doing is we're specifying the credentials, and we are using the SHA algorithm to generate our token, and there's the credentials, and this credentials is used in the header section. And then we have this payload, and to better understand how this thing is working, you know, the header part, payload part, let me take you to the JWT.io website, and I'm on the home page of the JWT.io, and if I scroll down, this is our JWT on the left hand side, and this JWT contains three parts: the header bit, which is in red, and then the payload, which is in the pink. Remember, P for payload, P for pink. Well, that's one way to remember that bit. And then we have the signature, which is in the blue right here. So what we're doing right now, we are generating this token, and we are working on the header part. And what is the header bit? The header bit is this bit, and we are saying the algorithm is SHA-256. The algorithm is this one, 256. And then we have the payload section. In the payload, what we're doing is just configuring our custom payload, the subject, the name. These are the custom claims. So inside of this payload. So if I go back, take you back to the website, so we have this payload, and these are referred to as claims, and if I hover over it, it says subject whom this token refers to. It can be any value that you want in here, and then the name whom the token is for, and then the issue at. And as you can see, the issue at has the Unix epochs time, while the time here is in the integer date time. That's what I'm doing. So I don't have the issue at. I can have the issue at bit. It only tells me when the token was generated. In the payload, I'm specifying the subject, the name, the email address, and the expiry. All it is saying is this token is valid for how long, when it's going to expire. And here it is expecting the value in integers, and I've converted this to, actually it says add 1 minute. I need to say 1 minute, not 60. Alright, so this is saying that this token is going to be valid for 1 minute or 60 seconds. So I'm getting the date time in here, and I'm converting that to an integer time. And well, this is also referred to as epoch, as we saw in here, right? The time should be represented in epochs time or Unix time. And I've got the issuer specified here. The issuer, I'm using the same solution. The issuer is using the same port as the resource, so I'm going to say issuer that, and then we have the audience specified. The audience is also the same in here, so let me make sure that it is the same. 44342 44342. Yep, that looks about right. And then we have the payload information, and then we are generating and we are creating this JWT security token object and passing in this header and payload information, and then we are adding this security token handler, which actually writes the token or generates the token. So this is the line that does the magic. Looks like I'm missing a curly braces. I'm gonna add that fixes that. So to rephrase, what we are doing here is, this is the diagram that I want you to see. So this is where the secured resource is, and this is your client. Now for the demo purposes, I'm just gonna copy this in here. So for the demo purposes, our server is on this port, right? So I'm gonna just say this is the audience, and this is the issuer. So both the audience and the issuer are sharing the same port, or they are part of the same solution. So just for this demo purposes, so issuer is that. So this is the server that is issuing the JWT, and the audience is that. So audience information, and the audience is where the resource is residing. Audience is the address of the resource, and the issuer, the party generating the JWT. Alright, hope that clears something. And then we have this bit. We are just specifying, we are just creating an object of the JWT security token as explained before, and we are passing the header and the payload information. So looks like our JWT class is looking good. We'll shortly see this in action, and it will generate us a JWT token for us. Let me go and add a controller in here. I'm just gonna call it JWT controller.cs. It's gonna say controller base. let's make this an API controller. Public, I'm going to say iAction, let's say JWT. I would like to get some JWT token, right? I'm going to say return new object result. I'm going to say, so here I would like to call this, I would like to call this generate JWT token. So this class is declared as static and this method is declared as static. So I'm going to say JWT dot generate JWT token. I'm going to say JWT dot JWT I'm just gonna call this that's called JWT token. Okay, and we'll add the using statement because it's inside of the helpers namespace. There's the helpers namespace. So with that thing in place, let's call this HTTP get. So what are we doing in here? We're going to call this controller. This controller is the HTTP get, and this would go ahead and generate the token for us and return it back to us. So clean build, all looking good. Oops, looks like I missed some semicolon somewhere here. My bad, there's a typo in there. Alright, let's start this one without further ado and let's see the JWT token in action. So I'm going to call my so let's call this controller. Let me hit the breakpoint in here and also hit a breakpoint in here in this one. Okay, and let's say JWT is called JWT. Okay, there's the name of the controller. Alright, so let's hit send and it is hitting that. Let me go inside. Okay, let's step through, and as you can see it is using that int time for the expiry, which is the epoch time, and we have the header information as well. Header has the header information there as well, right? We are saying type is JWT and the algorithm is that bit. Algorithm is HS256, right? HS256, that's what we need. Alright, that's looking good so far. And we have the payload information as well. So we have got this payload information. So let's progress further. And it has generated the token for us, and look at that. Looks like the token has been generated. So let me step through while still waiting for me to complete the call. Alright, so looks like our token was just generated. Alright, you know what, let me just copy this and go back to my this one and paste that in there. And look at that, our payload information is containing all the information that we need, but looks like our signature is not valid. So let's validate and see if the signature is valid or not. Let me minimize this and this as well, and let me copy this signature, go back to my signature section. Let me paste that bit in here. I'm just going to select this and replace that, and looks like the signature is verified as well. Now we would like to use this token and call our endpoint and see if we can access this resource. So let's see how we can access this resource with the token that was generated. And now let's call this weather forecast resource. So all I'm going to do is I'm just gonna copy that and create another GET request. I'm just gonna say weather forecast and hit send, and we get 401. So what we are going to do this time is go to the authorization section, choose bearer token, and let me generate this token again because it's only set to expire. It's only set to expire. It has the expiry of 1 minute, the generated JWT token. So I'm going to generate this one again, copy this, go back and put this one in here and hit send, and now we get 200. We are able to get the information back from our resource. So that's how we generate the JWT token and get the resource and configure that in the authorization section. I hope you like this video. If you have any feedback, I appreciate your comments. If this video has helped you, please give me a thumbs up and share it with people who may find this video helpful. And just before you go, if this video has helped you in any way, shape or form, give me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button.